Imagine having parents that are enslaved sharecroppers from South Carolina in 1875. Imagine those parents sending you to Chicago, Moody's Institute, and you're the only black graduate in the class. Imagine you move to Florida, you take your family with you, and you move to Florida, and you create 2 insurance companies, a hospital, and a school, which is now a college and university. At the end of your life, you somehow accumulated 11 honorary doctorate degrees. This is the story of Mary Bethune. This is my journey. I'm from Atlanta, a couple dozen miles from Atlanta. I grew up fascinated by the history left behind by the civil rights era and the struggle that it took to achieve that journey. I read Richard Wright, and I also read the autobiography of Malcolm X at a young and early age. I also read Lorraine Hansberry, A Raisin in the Sun. All these works change who I am as an individual and my basic assumptions about who I am and the cultural symbols that were presented to me as history. I visited at Dr. King's reflecting pool and his birthplace, which is reflected before you here. I've had a chance to walk down Auburn Avenue. It is located in the National Historic Park, which is part of Atlanta. I had a chance to walk around and observe. I want to stress here that the importance that these civil rights heroes, they were heroes. They were giants larger than life to me as a child. Giants who walked among us. Giants who changed the world that we now live in. Let's move to Mrs. Bethune. It is important that we reimagine her story. Look at who she is. You reimagine what she did. She's spending a lifetime dedicated to the service of others. She spent 6 decades building institutions to support others. And that's who she is. I'm still haunted by her voice to this day. Let's start my timeline. 1904. 1904, she moves to Daytona Beach and she starts a school. The school is called Daytona Educational Industrial Training School for Negro Girls. Guess what? It's only 5 students. The tuition is 50 cents. Sweet potato pies, she bakes those, is very popular down south. She writes letters to many donors throughout the area to grab donations for her school. 1907, the school moves to its permanent location. This is important here. It moves to its permanent location at that point. 1911 is an important day. She establishes a hospital. The reason she established the hospital is because her students were being mistreated at the white hospitals. They were being mistreated and they were not given medical service. This is under racial apartheid and the Jim Crow laws in down south. So she created a hospital just like that. And she wanted to make sure that her students were being treated. Booker T. Washington, famous individual, finally visits her school in 1912. He dies in 1915. 1916, the first administration building is built and constructed and named after Thomas Howard White. Thomas Howard White is important. He's from Cleveland, Ohio. Look him up. 1923, the school merges with Cookman Institute for Negro Boys in Jacksonville, Florida. And the school changes its name and becomes the Daytona Cookman Collegiate Institution. Collegiate Institution. Famous American poet. Everyone knows this person. Langston Hughes visits the school in 1931. These are his words. He was awestruck by the fact that the individuals in the school knew who he was, and they like wow, he was like dumbstruck. As it's stated here, he was a very, very puzzled young man. I can imagine Langston Hughes being very puzzled. This is taken from his autobiography, and it was 1931. Also, other artists also visits her school also in 1931 as well. She has a house on the campus there. Let's go to her accomplishments. Her accomplishments are many. Starting out, I want to also add here, in 1958, Dr. King spoke at her school. This is 5 years after her death, which was in 1955. More important here, in 1945, President R.S. Truman sends her with W. Du Bois. Everyone knows who this person is. And Mr. Walter White. Mr. Walter White is very important to NAACP history. Look him up. He's so important to what they are. Her legacies also consists of Bethune-Cookman, the Association of Study of Negro Life and History. NAACP. NAACP, she had some leadership positions there. The latter parts of her life, about the 15 years latter parts of her life, she spent time helping out with that organization. The Republic of Haiti gives her an award. It's called the Mary Bethune Honor Award. And also she does work in Liberia, in Africa, and then she's given the Star of Africa. She does more organizations, consists of the NCNW. This is an organization that helps black women. She starts the institution. It still exists to this day. Also, she worked under the Franklin D. Roosevelt administration, under the National Youth Administration. This is important because it gave people jobs during that time. This is the important quote that I took from her works. It epitomizes who she is. She's an educator. She's a philanthropist. She is an administrator. She's a number of things. I reference her family member, her mother, because she's very proud of her African heritage. And it says here, the drums of Africa still beat in my heart. And it goes back to her advocacy for her education and literacy. At a very young age, she wanted to know how to read or learn how to read, and that epitomizes who she is as an individual. This is my personal journey. The reason I chose Bethune-Cookman is because I was going on a journey. I was trying to figure out who I was, trying to figure out, expand myself as an individual, expand who I was, expand how I see myself in the world. And I was going back, and this is a picture taken in 2016 at Bethune-Cookman at a voter registration drive. I was encouraging students to right to actual vote. And this is me, and this is my journey there, and that's how I found that. So this is actually twofold in that respect. I want to close out this presentation going back to Mrs. Bethune's last will and testament. Everyone knows MLK, I Have a Dream speech on the Lincoln Memorial. Everyone knows that. And everyone in this room definitely knows that. Shake your head if you don't. Also, you probably also know about the letter from Birmingham jail. You know about that as well, and the bus boycott that happened in that area. This is her last will and testament. This is a historical document. I'm going to read just a brief moments of this. I leave you love. Love builds and is positive and helpful. I leave you hope. Our ancestors endured the degradation of slavery and yet retained their dignity. I leave you the challenge of developing others in confidence. And this is my favorite testament here. I leave you the thirst for education. Education was very important to this individual. She lived to be about 79 years old in her life. And my favorite one, which is very important, especially to this day, I leave you respect for the uses of power. The important thing that I want to point out here is power, intelligently directed, can lead to more freedom. And I leave you racial dignity. I want to close out. I'm going to give you three things. I want to say, what is your single vision? Mrs. Bethune, her single vision was to create a school. And I want to ask you, how would you go about doing this? And I also want to encourage you, by doing so, and you create a better world. Thank you.